A warm welcome to all of you to yet another important session. The topic is about Sashtang, the divine meditation. Very interesting one. When I learned about this long time back, I was very excited, right? So, and I'm sure all of us, uh, will see this is as very interesting, right? So for people who have joined the last session, what was covered, but for people who are new to this session, what I'm going to do is very quickly I'm going to put a summary of the last session. For people who are already aware, please bear with me for a few minutes. Second point, we'll directly come to what is Sashtang, and we will then cover is Sashtang a thing that is very specific to India, or to the Indian culture, or is it also practiced in a lot many of the other cultures too, right? And at the end, we will see since Sashtang is a divine meditation and is also a prayer, at the end we will try to participate in one prayer, right? So then the most important part of today's session is that prayer. So I would, the people who have just joined, unless you have a very critical reason to drop, I would suggest you stay put till the end. All right, so what we covered in the last session, right? So we started with proving that God really exists, right? What we did was we took a lot of examples. We looked at the universe, how it has 300 billion galaxies, and each galaxy, it has so many stars, and sun is one among them, and we are one among the planets that surround sun. We are on the earth, right? All these have been very nicely placed. So that was one of the things that we noted. We also saw about the various microorganisms, the bacteria and the viruses. We took an example that half an acre of land actually has billions of these microorganisms, right? So we then thought at least that who has kept all of them, right? And we have acres and acres of land, right? So isn't there some creator for all of these, right? And then we looked at our own human body. We saw how complicated the body is. We saw that be it the prime minister of the country, be it the presidents, be it the lowest person who's working, right? Any worker or anyone, everyone, nobody has actually created the body for themselves. They all have received the body, and we are actually living a life according to that body, isn't it? So we took many examples. We also saw how the love and care that we have towards our family, towards our friends, towards the environment, towards the humanity in general, how this is a great thing to have, right? And God, who has given all of these, has all these things in abundance, right, in infinity. So we also noted that God loves us thousands of times than our own mother loves us. This has been quoted multiple times in multiple scriptures, right? And we also saw that God asks us to take steps towards Him, and then He actually will start come running towards us, right? But for that, we have to actually take the initial few steps, right? Those were some of the logical grounds that we discussed. But if you also see our holy scriptures, all the holy scriptures, I will quote a few here. They have been giving logical reasoning, and they're also appealing humans emotionally as to why they keep forgetting the God, right? So Quran, for example, I've just extracted this particular ayat from the Quran that says God has created you out of out of your mother's womb, right? And your mind was a blank state at that point of time, right? We were totally blank. We had nothing. It is God who provided us the capacity, right, to see and hear, and equipped us with the hearts so that we may be thankful, right? Same goes with Ved. If you see, Ved also said God separated the day and the night, right? It's trying to give you a logical reasoning to think that after every night comes the day, and after every day comes the night. And this has been happening since a long time, right? Since man has been on this earth, or even much before that. And you see that a good system is working behind, which makes all of this possible, right? And these are just one references I have quoted from both these books, but there are many. We will try to have a separate session. I'm sure one session we won't be able to cover that, but we have many such appeals from the God to humans to recognize their creator, right? All right. So fair enough, God exists. Then the second thing that we looked at in the last session was that God is actually one, right? The reasoning that we saw was a prime minister of a country, right, is the final decision maker, or a president in some cases, right? But a prime minister needs a cabinet, a finance, a defense, a home ministers, etc., right? Because prime minister at the end is also human and cannot manage everything on his or her own. But God, dear friends, is infinite, right? So there is actually no need for God to basically have multiple other gods to take share of the responsibility, right? So God is one. And and it has been again called many times, uh, and if you see, God, so the second point is God actually cannot be seen with our eyes as well, right? So it's fairly logical, isn't it? On one side we are saying that God is infinite, and on the other side, if we try to conceive God through some finite objects, right, and the finite objects could well be our thoughts as well, right? Or could be some any other objects, isn't it? So anything that is infinite logically cannot be actually seen through finite objects, right? So there, you don't do justice to that infinite power in that case, right? And I mean, it's not me who says all of that, right? Doesn't matter what I say, but again, see this, how can we ignore these books which have been telling us all of this, right? Quran said, nor is there to God any equivalent, which means there is nothing like God, right? You cannot compare God with like any object, any human, any painting, any sculpture, any mountain or sun or moon, nothing else, right? So there is nothing that is like God. What does the Ved say? He has no figure. The remembrance of his name is the greatest virtue, right? Is the greatest thing to do, right? Very clear. There's absolutely no confusion in this, that God does not have any figure from Yajurved. And some of you might be aware about Basavanna, Basaveshwar. He's a great reformer who was born in Karnataka around 12th century, AD. There are a lot of his vachanas. His teachings are called as vachanas. So he has spoken a lot in detail about the concept of one God, right? So, but Basavanna said, "Don't speak that gods are two or three. He is one. To say he is two is false." Right. So in the last sessions, these are the two major points that we established. And in the current one, what we are trying to see, our focus is on this one, right? So how do we connect with God, right? And see, this man is a social creature, isn't it? So we want to talk with people, we interact with our families, our friends, our office colleagues, our neighbors, right? So it's very natural that man would also want, right, or humans would also want to probably connect with God as well, isn't it? And that's what we will see. How do we how do we do that? And why I have put home here is because home is the best place from where you would want to start your connection to God from, right? And especially during the current times when we are most of us are staying at home. So this is a very golden opportunity, or very nice time for all of us actually to start that connection with God while we are at home, right? So some of the things I'm moving a bit faster because we have lost some time due to the technical issues. All right. So importantly, even before we move on to Sashtang, right? Or so let's try to see what actually is a prayer, right? What ideal outcomes should a prayer have, isn't it? So the one that you see in the green at the top, that's the most important outcome of your prayer, right? The prayer should actually enable you to connect and talk with the Creator. A prayer is not chanting of some things which you do as a duty, right? That's probably a very lower version of the prayer, right? The highest prayer, the ideal prayer, right, the supreme prayer is that which will make you connect with the God, right, in a way that when you practice it for more time, right, when you practice it for say few weeks or 1 to 2 months, you change in a way that you carry this feeling, right? You carry God with you everywhere, right? So God accompanies you 24/7, right? So that is the ultimate prayer. And that's not very easy, right? That needs certain practice, and to assist that, God has actually given us a divine way. How do you do that, right? That's what is the main topic of today's session, right? A prayer should also give you strength, mental, spiritual, emotional, right? And to limited extent, physical as well. Should prevent you from doing bad things, right? See, I'll give you one example. There are many which we can quote, right? But one example, we all know our land revenue departments or our, road transport departments, right? They are believed to be one of the most corrupt, right? So nothing, if you want to get any of your work done, always you have to bribe it. No amount of cameras that you put, no amount of scrutiny, right, has resulted in, stopping those corruption in those offices, right? Now, if the people who are there, right, if they had done their part of the prayers, and if they were carrying God along themselves, right? So even if an officer in such a department, say he or she has a salary of 30 or 40,000, right, and someone is offering him or her a bribe of 50 lakhs, right? So I can, I can assure you that if the prayer was done properly, that person will disregard that. He or she will not accept that 50 lakh and only will do what is right. Right. So in general, prayers should prevent you from doing anything bad. Corruption is just one example, easy example that I took. But in our daily lives, in our day-to-day lives, if we are doing anything wrong, right, so prayer should come to our help there. Right. It should stop us from doing all of that. It should remove the fear, day-to-day fear that some of the people have, whether it's loss of job, whether it is, loss of business, etc., right? And if there is no fear, there is no stress, right? No anxiety, no grief. Prayer makes you happy, right? So you're always in a very elevated state, always in a very comfortable state. So there is absolutely no depression, right? And when you connect with the God, you're always certain about things, right? So there are no uncertainties. You know what you're doing. You know where you're going to go after you die. You know what is the importance of the life. You know what you're supposed to do within this life, right? So you are always certain about everything. There are no uncertainties, right? And because you're happy and you're certain, there is no negativity in the life, right? For me, one of the most important thing is the prayer should also remove the fear of death, right, and make you eternal. So we plan to conduct a detailed session on this. How is this possible, right? But for now, please note this point, that a person who has done his prayers properly is ready to face death even the next moment, right? He's always ready. He has done his part of the things, right? He has the spiritual connect, he has the confidence in everything, and he or she is always ready to face death, right? So that is also one of the outcomes of the prayer. Yeah. So before we move on to the actual Sashtang, there is one misconception, right? So I've spoken this with many people, and when I ask them what is Sashtang, right? So the general answer that comes is this specific position, right? So actually, this is not Sashtang, and I'll tell you why. Just looking at the word Sashtang, you can tell that this position is not Sashtang, right? This is something called Dandvat Pranam, right? That we do. Yeah. So moving on, what exactly is Sashtang in that case, right? Sashtang is actually a combination of three Sanskrit words, right? Sashtang is actually a Sanskrit term. It is Sa plus Asht plus Ang, right? Sa is together, Asht is 8 and Ang is parts of the body. So that position of meditation, or that position of prayer, in which all the 8 parts of the body are participating together, right? That is what is Sashtang, right? And if you see the previous slide, right, here it is not 8 parts, right? It is the entire body that is participating, right? So if it's an entire body, then there was no need for a separate term called Sashtang, right? The fact that there is a separate term called Sashtang only means that it is not entire body, but it is a specific parts of the body, right? And in this case, it is 8 parts of the body that participate, right? So now let's see, how do you reach to that final position, right, where all the 8 parts of the body participate? So the first position is basically standing, right? So when you're standing, what you're trying to do is to try to establish your intention, right? So you have come with an intention to pray, right? With an intention to connect, with an intention to meditate with the God, with the Supreme Creator, right? So we should note that if there are no intentions, there is absolutely nothing that is possible, right? So to have an intention is very important in the first step. So standing is that position where you actually confirm that intention, right? You try to cut yourself from the entire worries of the world, right? You try to cut yourself from your office, from the meetings that you might be having tomorrow morning, right? From the political discussions that might be happening, on the televisions or on the social media, right? From the from the stock market crash probably that is happening these days, right? Even from the worries of your family, from regarding the future of your kids, etc., right? So this, when you are getting into the Sashtang position, what you are trying to do is to give this time for yourself and your creator, right? This is a time which is a very personal time of yourself and the creator, right? And in the standing position is when we are trying to set that thing, right? And it's not easy, it will take time, but that's how you proceed, right? So the next position basically is on your knees, right? So when you are on your knees, what it means is basically you have left all your ego, right? So when someone falls on their knees, right, it means that someone in front of whom they are falling on leaves, they respect them a lot. They respect them to an extent that they have totally forgotten their ego, right? So at this point, there is no ego between the person who's on his knees or her knees and the person to whom they are referring to, right? So on your knees is also a position where you actually reinforce your understanding, right? In the standing, whatever you confirmed in the standing part, you reinforce that on your knees, that I have left all my ego, I'm trying to cut myself from the entire worries of the world, and now I am trying to get into a submissive state, right? Submissive stage, so that I can focus on my creator, right? The third position is submitting your tools, right? So what we do is so our hands are the ones using which we do all our work. We do our typing and produce softwares. A carpenter uses his hands and the tools to actually make some good furnitures, etc., etc., right? So in most of the cases, hands are the tools using which we earn a livelihood, right? We run our families, we run ourselves, right? We invest using the money that we earn. So in this position, what you are trying to tell is, oh God, you are even more superior to me than my hands itself, right? The hands that are my skills, you are even more important to me than that. Therefore, I am submitting you along with my skills as well. Okay. Finally, right? So this is the position of the Sashtang. If you see, there are eight parts, right? The two limbs of the feet, right? There are 2 feet, and there are 2 hands. It makes it 4. 2 knees makes it 6. Nose is the 7th part, and forehead is the 8th part, right? So I'm on the screen. I'm currently sharing a Buddhist monk who's actually trying to meditate in the Sashtang position. So we have covered the 6th part, but what it means to touch nose to the ground. So nose is the main organ through which we breathe. So if we don't breathe for a few minutes, we will die. So when we touch the nose to the earth, we are also telling that nose, that is the essence of my existence here, that has kept me alive, I am also submitting that nose to you, my Lord. And our forehead is our pride. Our all pride lies on our forehead, and we touch forehead to the ground. It means that now we have entered into a total submissive state. Yeah. So even though this is the final position, but we have seen in the previous slide what are the 3 other positions that take us to this final position. And this position is not new to Indian culture, right? So we all know, there whenever there are very holy occasions, if there is a marriage, the bride and the bridegroom, they go to the elders and probably try to do this, right? But here we are focusing solely on an individual trying to connect with the God through Sashtang. And is Sashtang very specific, to any culture? No. So Sashtang is actually being practiced by major communities across the world. We should be fortunate that India is the oldest civilization. Sashtang probably we knew much before than anyone else in the world. Yeah. But again, as of today, Major communities of the world use this as the mode of worship. On the left side, I've shown a Jew, right, who follows a Jewish culture, right, trying to do a prostration or a Sashtang in front of Lord. On the right side, a person of Islamic faith during his namaz is trying to remember God, right? So Sashtang is actually universally accepted as the main mode of worship across different cultures. Yeah. So having said that, now we have it was a quick introduction about Sashtang, but eventually what we have to do is to practice this. We have to practice this every day at a time where you have peace. What generally is also recommended in the books is early morning, probably around 4:35 or 5:30, if that's the time you are comfortable getting up, when there is peace around you, peace everywhere. Try to give this time. All it takes is 10 minutes of your time. Try to give this time and try to connect with the Lord during that time. And try once again before you sleep. Try this for 2 times. Try this for few number of days. Initial times, it will not be easy. It will be a bit tough. It will not be easy to cut yourself from everything and focus on that creator. It will take some time. Try it out, and it is bound to give you some good results. So moving on, this is the last. So now this is the last section I had to run through because we lost some time. But this is the main important section of today's session, right? Let's pray to the creator. So what I would suggest all of us here is take a deep breath. Try to get into that position where you are trying to cut yourself from everything. So hardly it's a matter of next 5 to 10 minutes. Try to cut yourself and try to get in a position, even though you're not doing Sashtang, but imagine that you're already doing it. And together, let's do a prayer to the Almighty God. Oh God, you are the creator of everything. You have created the sun, the moon, the earth on which we live. You have given us this body, and the body that you have given us, we are all living that body. Dear God, forgive us for whatever wrong we might have done. Dear God, keep us on the straight path, prevent us from doing bad things, and always shower your mercy on all of us. Dear Ishwar or dear Prabhu, the people who have joined the call today, whatever issues they have, if they have any family issues or health issues, please help them to resolve those. God, we are going through very tough times today. The entire world is infected because of a virus, and the future of the world looks uncertain. We all know that human intellect had reached a stage where we should have realized the excesses that we have done to the environment, the excesses we might have done to ourselves. So most likely, you're also punishing us because of those excesses through Mother Nature. God, we have learnt our lessons. We will, after the world settles down of the virus, we will continue to take care of the environment, and we will try to lead a better life. This virus has also taught us a lot of good things. A lot of us have actually come out and helped the poor. You have also asked in all of your books to actually help these people who are poor. Dear God, the poor have hardly few days of savings, and some people don't even have savings for 2 days. They all earn the same day and spend the same day. The current conditions have become very, very harsh on them. We are doing our part. We are trying to help them in whatever we could. But please, our efforts are never sufficient. But please try to help those people. Being poor is not a bad thing. It's just that some people have been unfortunate to have not got the right education, have not got the right opportunities. And people who have been fortunate, we are all trying to help them. And you yourself in your books have said that a rupee spent by a poor is probably like 10,000 rupees spent by a rich. An attempt made by a poor to come closer to God carries much more weight when compared to a similar attempt that is made by a rich. So we all know that, but our hearts bleed now looking at the conditions of them, and we ask you to come, let these people come out of this at the earliest. Dear God, you have revealed so many books. You have revealed the Vedas to the holy rishis in the olden days. Vedas are considered to be the oldest scriptures. And then you have continued to reveal your books on many people, many prophets. Jesus was given Bible, Prophet Muhammad was given the Quran as the last book. In all these books, my Lord, you have given us so much of good things, but we are guilty. We are guilty of not going through these books. You have also said that there is no, humans cannot see me through naked eyes. Natasya pratima asti yasya nama mahadasha. In Ved, you said that there is no pratima, or there is no image of God. Taking your name itself is a big thing. The same way, you have said it at multiple times in Quran. You have said Qul huwallahu ahad, that God is one. And going forward, you have said many times that God cannot be seen. Likely that God, we have not given the right focus to the books. We have not given the right time, because of which we might have made certain errors. And today we are here, all of us, trying to connect to you, trying to see you through this prayer. Give us the strength to get going. Give us the strength to practice this for more number of times. Dear God, you do not distinguish people based on their religion or race or caste or anything. Your air, your water, your everything is same for people across. You do not distinguish people based on their birth. You have said that those people become good who do good deeds, and not people by birth. Therefore, please give us that strength so that we could do as much good as possible, so that we can come near to you as much as possible. Dear God, finally, ours is a great country. We have a great culture. Give us the strength to take the strengths to the things of our country to much beyond. We are on the path of becoming a global economy, a global superpower, but none of that would be sustainable. Even if we become, we will not be able to sustain that unless a large part of this country, a large people of this country, connect themselves with you. So please help us get closer to you. And all the people who are here, I once again request you, I once again pray to you to help them, to help their families. My God, you have said that people who know good things, they have to communicate those things to others. They have to educate those things to others. And this is a humble attempt today to communicate things that we are aware to all the people, right? So that it might help them. Now it is up to them to take it forward, to study more about it, and to connect with you. From my part, I am trying to do my own duty. If I am I was short in words. If there is something that I did not explain properly, I humbly ask for forgiveness. All right, so that was one of the sample prayers, and I hope today's session will at least that's again sort of a prayer that that I did, not necessary that you have to do the same prayer, right? When you get into the Sashtang position, try to make sure that you are in silence for some time, so that you're trying to connect, and then first try to thank God for everything that you have, and then slowly start having a private conversation, right? Hopefully this will help people to come closer to that superpower, and eventually we become better humans and make this world a better place. Thank you. I thank you all for taking time for joining us today. Hopefully we will sort out the technical issues for the next call, but I wish you a blessed week ahead. We have more sessions coming up in different languages, so feel free to join or feel free to let them know. We also have recordings of the previous session, so I would request the host to send you all, or probably put in the chat. And yeah, here I sign off. Have a good week ahead.